Hello, darling. I'm Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and you're watching The Horror Show.
Have you checked the children? Your little man sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to The Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Susie Von Slaughter.
And we're here to do something very special. We are finally, after 7 years, we met her the first time in 2014 at Mad Monster, Arizona. But now we are finally closing the loop by interviewing Elvira herself, Miss Cassandra Peterson, as well as writer David Avallone. They are the ones that worked together to create all the Elvira comics up to this point. I think there's been like 16 issues. I know there was a 12-issue run, and then the Shape of Elvira 4-issue series, and then there was another one-off comic that I don't think David had a hand in. But they also previously did the Omega Ma'am special that was their previous Kickstarter. We are here to talk to them about their new Kickstarter that is going right now only for 48 more hours as this airs. This is going up Wednesday morning, and it is going to be ending this Friday. So if you guys want to get your hands on the comic we're going to be talking about with them in just a couple of moments here, make sure you click the link in the description box. It'll be the top link for their Kickstarter page to go get your own copy of Elvira, The Wrath of Khan. So this book is what we're going to be spotlighting today, so we're going to show you exactly what this book is. So here we go. This is the Elvira, The Wrath of Khan Kickstarter page. We're just going to tell you all about it right here, so that way we can get right to the questions for them when we have them on here. So yes, it has already been funded. They wanted $6,666, of course, but they've already raised over $53,000. So yes, it says, "Welcome back to my all-new creepy comic book adventures, darling." Maybe you should be reading this part. You read that part.
Hello, you comic book reading devils. It's me, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and the gem of your collection. If you're like me, and I know you are exactly like me, wink, you are missing the wonderfully wacky world of San Diego Comic-Con this summer. I mean, where else can you go dressed like this and feel perfectly welcome and among so many friends? Nowhere in the world captures the spirit of creativity like San Diego, and the weather ain't half bad either.
These are all the cool covers you have access to by choosing which perk you want. I just went with the main cover because I have the main covers of all the other books, so I want them to be in line. But Wrath of Khan, a new crowdfunded comic. So yes, welcome to my newest comic book. I'll take this paragraph, Susie. It's a wacky and wonderful 48-page original comic written by yours truly with my diabolical double D partners, devilish David Avallone, who we will also be talking to, and dastardly Dave Acosta, who will not be joining us today, but is nonetheless talented. Together, we've created something that will get you through the San Diego Comic List summer. San Diego list summer, I should say. Here's what all the hubbub is about. Haven't you always wanted to go to Comic-Con with Elvira? Elvira is the guest of horror, and an army of angry maniacs want her beautiful head on a platter. Join the Mistress of the Dark for a fun-filled weekend in San Diego with all the usual stuff. Loyal fans, amazing cosplay, celebrity sightings, and ritual cult murder in Elvira, The Wrath of Khan. So yes, this is only available through this crowdfunding. I think the last one, the Omega Man, was only available through that Kickstarter as well. So it says, we're bringing this new comic directly to all of Elvira's fans here on Kickstarter. The books will not be released at a lower price at any time. If there are any copies left above what sells here in the crowdfunder, those may be available at a higher price to fans that discover it later on a first-come, first-served basis. But it will never be offered anywhere else at a better price than we're giving every incredible backer here. We want to thank you for supporting Elvira's adventures and make sure you get these rare editions at the best possible price. So yeah, that's really cool. These are all the perks that are available, other great Elvira items, a board game, a $50 coin, trading card set, plus a pack that has basically everything. So make sure you guys go and check this Kickstarter out. Again, the link is in the description box down below, but I think, Susie, without further ado, what do you say we get to that interview?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, here we go. Here we are, guys. It is time, and we have with us two very awesome people, starting off with none other than Miss Elvira herself, Cassandra Peterson. Welcome to the channel, Cassandra.
Yes,
Great.
welcome.
Hi. Great to be here.
And then also we have the writer of all of these wonderful comics sitting to my right here, including the one that just came out last week at your local comic shop, Elvira Meets Vincent Price #1. And that writer is none other than David Avallone. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Of course, we greatly appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to us a bit about Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and the Wrath of Khan. So this is the new comic book that you guys are working on, currently being kickstarted. We've just let everyone know exactly all about it and that they can go get their hands on it. So my first question for you guys is, where did the story for the Wrath of Khan come from? How did that evolve in the brain?
Well, I'll sort of address that. Maybe, I mean, David and I were commiserating about not being able to go to conventions, first of all. I think we were maybe having a drink in a bar. I don't know. Maybe it was on
Frequently the case.
No, but we were talking about what a bummer not to be able to go to conventions, and which we both really love. Well, David mentioned we have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with them. We love it the first day, second day, that maybe the third, fourth, fifth, not so much. But we do love going to conventions. I do, and I know David does. But
Absolutely.
we were talking about what a bummer that was, and he kind of, I don't know. We got to thinking, wouldn't it be awesome to do a comic book about that very thing, about a convention, especially the San Diego Comic-Con, kind of the granddaddy of all conventions.
Mm-hmm.
And how much we missed it, and what sort of went wrong. That the reason we're not. So anyway, yeah, I'll let David talk more about that.
Yeah, the Dynamite wanted to do another Kickstarter, and last year the one we did was our our pandemic comedy, because that's easy to do. The Omega Man, and that was very successful. And we're very happy with it. And so, Cassandra came up with the idea of doing a con one. And we thought, well, we should do a direct sequel to the Omega Man. Like, that's what I want. I wanted to connect the Kickstarter ones together.
Sure.
So we did the Omega Man, and I can say the horrible title, right, Cassandra?
Yeah.
I had a much filthier.
Because it was a little.
I had a much filthier title for the Wrath of Khan, because we were talking about we were thinking about sequels to horror. Like Omega Man was a riff on The Last Man on Earth, and the Omega Man and I Am Legend, 28 Days Later, all that kind of thing. And this is a sequel, and sci-fi horror sequels. And I was thinking about the titles of sequels. We eventually, the pun of The Wrath of Khan with a C was what we went on. But my first thought was The Chode Warrior. And I'm only a little ashamed of that. And I wrote in the email, I was like, I know we're not going to do this, but just let me say it out loud, and then we can get on with our lives.
You haven't done it yet.
Never say it again.
Yeah. But I know it gets a laugh, so I have to say it. But yeah, so The Wrath of Khan, trying to pack into it all of our affection for and yet honest memories of conventions and what it's like to be at them.
Gotcha.
Okay, Cassandra, I have a question for you. With your kind of extensive experience with cons and everything, were you able to add a little bit more input with this new series?
It's just the one issue.
Just
it's a one shot.
One issue, sorry.
David, David pretty much had that down. I mean, after he kind of goes through it, I read through it and add anything that I can, but he pretty much got it. I mean, I am able to, if I want to, that's always an option for me, but I don't have to do that much with David. He's really got the character down. He had the conventions down. And for a straight man, I don't know what's going on there, but
I know I'm the anomaly, the straight man that can write Elvira. I mean, part of why our collaboration works is I think Cassandra and I have the same attitude. I mean, I can't say we've had the same experiences because I've never been at a convention as Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
That's not what I heard.
There is not enough nair in the world to make me look acceptable in that dress. But I think we have the same, as Cassandra was saying earlier, the same love-hate relationship with the experience, where we love the same things and we're frustrated by the same things. And in a lot of ways, this one is a tribute to all of those great things that we love, the interaction with the fans and all of that. And the parts of it that are tricky, that's, comic books need villains. So
True. Now, David, because it's a convention special, did you or the artist, Mr. Acosta, did either of you guys have ample opportunity to throw in some fun Easter eggs for us horror fans and convention fanatics?
I mean, you've got those comics behind you. You know that I'm all Easter eggs all the time. There's a panel.
Easter Bunny.
There you go.
There's a panel that Dave just showed me the other day where we have Elvira and a mystery guest star talking about terrible film adaptations of comic books. And over their shoulders are a Halle Berry Catwoman, Mr. Freeze as Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's like 5 people in the background who are cosplaying terrible comic book movies. So Dave is always right on top of all of that stuff. And we rarely, either I'll suggest it to him or he'll suggest it to me, but he's very good with populating backgrounds with very con appropriate stuff.
Now it makes so much more sense why I saw Dave post a single panel of Halle Berry as Catwoman inexplicably.
You have seen that part. Yeah, they're talking about she's having a conversation with a comic book industry giant who when you see who it is, you'll go, well, of course. But they're talking about terrible comic book movies. So we thought it would be hilarious to have a whole bunch of terrible comic book people.
Your meta humor is always so on point. I can't imagine. I imagine that the convention special would be just a playground for you. So it's exciting.
Okay, David. So you have about 16 issues that you've done now. Is there a certain process that you go through with each comic, like the series, and what if you do, like, what's that process?
Yeah, the collaboration process between you two.
The collaboration process is sometimes I always submit a pitch to Dynamite and to Cassandra. And if she okays that, sometimes she has great overall story notes and we get on the phone and we talk for a ridiculous amount of time. And usually we're telling each other show business war stories for 90 minutes. And then in the last 15 minutes, we go, let's talk about the comic though. Let's
sounds like us when we're trying to do show stuff.
Yeah.
Let's actually talk about the business reason we're supposed to be having this conversation. And we've been doing it enough that, like, on the Omega Mam, as an example, I couldn't tell you whose jokes, some of the overall jokes. I think Cassandra might have had the idea that the zombies were orange, and I had the idea that they're cured by latte. But I could be the other way around. I really don't know who came up with that. But then after the phone calls and the notes, I sit down and write the script. I send it back to Cassandra. She usually
reading it because
usually has about between 2 and 3 joke suggestions, not a lot, and they're always great, and I always use them. I don't even know if I've told her this. There was one issue, Elvira Mistress of the Dark, number 3. There was a panel I had like literally nothing for. I just didn't have a good line or joke or anything, and I just kind of put in the lamest placeholder line anyway ever, and I just thought to myself, Cassandra will catch this and I will be fine. And I got the notes back and she had 2 notes and one of them was that panel, and I went, there it is, okay. And it's and so it's great to know that we have each other's back like that, where if I run out of steam, even in a single panel, if I run out of steam, I know she will see it and say, there could be a funnier thing here. Why don't you say this instead? So it's a great.
I don't have to do that much work, really. David does all the heavy lifting, and your stuff's so funny. I mean, there's rarely anything that I don't like or that I want to change. I'll make suggestions here and there, but he's really good at what he does, and he really gets the Elvira character, and that is what is so amazing.
Well, you kind of just answered my next question, which was I was going to ask Cassandra if you had sort of a final cut on these projects, so to speak, since obviously Elvira is your baby.
I do. And you can't believe how many projects I have that people, David, you don't know how lucky you are. I'm just doing a thing right now for a magazine. I won't say which one or where, but it is like endless. I feel like I'm rewriting the entire thing from beginning to end. So, and that's generally what ends up happening with a lot of stuff I get. Whether it's interviews or it's little scripts for things I'm supposed to do or whatever, I'm always like kind of PO'd because I end up writing the whole thing. And David, it's like a dream come true.
Well, finally someone gets you.
Yeah.
Here's the secret. I'll give away the secret. I think people look at Cassandra and they look at Elvira and they can't get past the look, and they think it has to be vampy in a very sort of standard way. And it's like, I write Elvira the way I would write an 80-year-old Jewish Catskill stand-up comic.
I was just gonna say, we both have the same shocking, horrible sense of humor. We really do. We got together at the Dresden Room and we were talking about stuff in our past, and it really is. We have both have more of a like a Shecky Green vaudeville kind of sense of humor. So
that's the trick. I think the people that fail writing the character are trying to make Morticia Addams funny rather than putting a dress on Mel Brooks. That's the attitude is write Mel Brooks as a sexy lady, not write a sexy lady trying to be funny. That's the whole secret. And since I come up from that kind of world and have spent a lot of time in the comedy world, like that comes shockingly easy to me.
Definitely our connection there.
Yeah.
Well, to your quality of writing, I have to say that, Elvira, it's the funny thing about these comics is that Elvira herself is a character, to all of us, but she tends to be the most grounded thing in her own comics. And so in and amongst all the zaniness and the comedy and the adventure, what's nice is there's always a live beating heart below the surface. And that is the way you write Elvira. She's always so caring and she has such a wonderful heart that's present through the whole thing. What I'm wondering is that a tough balance to strike as a writer so that it's not coming off as schlocky and that there's not too little of it in there as well?
I was just going to say one thing before you answered, David. Don't let me make you forget what you're going to say. But I always described Elvira a little bit as, and this is not entirely accurate, but like the hooker with the heart of gold.
This should very much be, Julia Roberts from Pretty Woman, like that.
Yeah, sort of, well, a little bit like that. Elvira's not a hooker, but
sure, no, I'm that kind of personality-wise,
rough-edged exterior. That underneath, way down deep, she cares about people and wants to help them. So anyway, take it, Dave.
I'll try not to drag out my soapbox too much, but I think the laziest comedy writing in the world, insults are so easy. Cruelty is so easy. There's a great interview with Simpsons writer-producer George Meyer from years ago in The New Yorker that I've never forgotten, because he said he was watching Friends or Seinfeld with his wife, and she turned to him and said, if any of my friends spoke to me the way these people speak to each other, I would run crying from the room. And I said, because this isn't people, this is a writer's room all trying to be mean to one another, and that's what ends up in the script. And I think that's incredibly, it's cheap, it's easy. I would rather write about people who are genuinely good and also funny. And it's just easier for me to tune into that. And Elvira has never really, she has cutting insults for, Puritans and Republicans and whatever, but it's not cruelty to people who have not earned it. It's really not funny.
It's super funny you say that, because I never could get into Seinfeld. I never knew why. It was just like I couldn't get into it. I couldn't watch it. Sorry, Seinfeld.
I would say there's a whole category of sitcoms that are funny.
Like the Family Guy.
Yeah, they're funny and they're well made, but they're also about people I would talk to for 30 seconds at a party and then say, "Oh, I see my friend over there. Excuse me," and I would not why would I spend 22 minutes with them if I don't want to spend 20 seconds with them?
That's
I
a
think
very good observation, though. Mean-spirited humor. There is a difference there. Yes, Elvira says snarky things, but mean-spirited humor is a whole different.
Right.
yeah. So
know?
I mean, read anything I write, and I tend to write about. I think it's more interesting and more challenging to write about people who are thoughtful and smart. There's a 1930s screwball comedy thing that I'm a big fan of, and you'll see it in all of my comic books, which is no character is boring and no character has no internal life. A doorman who has one line in a Frank Capra movie will have a hilarious single line. You know, no one's a throwaway character. Right. You don't give the star all the funny lines, you know, so you find ways to make everyone as interesting and as compelling and as funny. I'd rather live in a world where everyone's kind of funny than not. And even in stuff that's supposed to be inherently dramatic, people say, I don't know what happened in Chris Nolan's childhood, but like, even when serious things are happening, people can be funny. People can have a sense of humor about horrible things happening. And in fact, it's a character we love in heroes. You know, Elvira is never beaten down by her experiences. She's, you know, plucky in the best sense of like, she doesn't let anything grind her all the way down. And I think that's a big heroic quality that people love to read.
It's very Spider-Man-esque, really. I mean, he uses humor to cope with the situations he's dealing with, and Elvira does the same in a lot of situations.
Yeah, and that makes her a great comic book character, honestly.
100%.
Okay, so I want to know, out of all the issues that you have done together, is there a certain series or issue specifically or story arc that you have a favorite of?
Oh, God.
I know they're all so great. Yeah, I can answer that.
Well, it might be the one that's coming up. And can we talk about who Elvira is together with in the comic book series that's coming up?
Oh, you mean Vincent Price? Vincent Price?
Yeah, Vincent Price. Yes, I didn't
know. Right there. Oh, yeah, that's out. We can talk about it.
Okay, I didn't know.
We can talk about Vincent Price.
I'm not supposed to. Anyway, it might be. Honestly, it might be the fact that I'm actually getting to work with Vincent Price again, which I really thought would never happen. I mean, that's pretty special to me. And I think we make we're like Sonny and Cher. We make such a good duo. So I mean, all the comics have been fantastic. I love them all. It's really hard to pick. It's like picking one of your favorite child, you know. But the Vincent Price one's coming up. I mean, yeah, I just love him. In case you have never heard that, since I was a child, and so being able to work with him again is amazing.
Oh, that's so great.
It's quite a thing to be able to write him. Again, it's a thing I never thought. Just like Cassandra said, I never thought I'd be writing dialogue for Vincent Price.
What was that like for you?
It gave me it was a great excuse to watch 20 Vincent Price movies in the last year.
Yeah, nailing his parlance couldn't have been easy.
Yeah.
It's the tricky thing. On Hill last night. It's so great.
She watched it in the comic. Look, you're so on brand. So on brand.
Yeah, and obviously that could have been any movie, but I chose Cassandra's favorite one because it's Cassandra's favorite one. I also really loved him appearing first as Frederick Lauren in black and white, and the way you'll see in future issues, he shifts appearance based on what she's thinking about and who she's thinking of, and that's always fun with a character.
So cool. Such a great idea.
To answer your question, I love the Elvira Vincent Price books, but we were talking about this a little bit before we went on air. I think the divine transformation in the Hell issues is my emotional favorite.
Yes, that's what I was telling David before you came on. It is my favorite. When I saw Divine, I was like, yes.
Well, it's you know, when you see there's story and there's plot. Elvira is in Hell. Elvira goes all the way down through Hell to meet Lucifer and argue her way out is all plot. The story is why are people in Hell and how can Elvira get out of Hell by understanding what Hell is. And to the degree that these comics are ever about something bigger than plot, to the degree that they're about story, it's hard to beat that as a story.
Mhm.
Elvira understanding that people are punishing themselves for sins that might be non-existent and might, you know, when I was prepping that, I found that C.S. Lewis quote that the gates of hell are locked from the inside. And I went, I'm going to write a whole 4-issue arc of a comic book about that philosophical idea. Because the thing is, you can't write about hell and not have an opinion about what it is, why it would exist if it did.
Right.
David, one thing you didn't know that I don't think I've ever told you, when Mistress of the Dark first came out, our plans and NBC's plans, NBC, strangely, the television company was who produced it, that our plans were that it was going to be a series, like the Ernest, what was it? Ernest?
Oh, the Ernest series.
really?
Oh.
And the movie that we had in our back of our mind, we didn't end up getting to write it or anything because of, long story, how the movie didn't make any box office money. It's a very sad tale.
Travesty.
Yeah.
A lot of sour grapes there. But our next movie was called Elvira Goes to Hell.
Oh.
And now finally I got to do it.
It's I mean, it because of the, you know, horror hostess thing and all that, it's just such an obvious place to go with the character. So it was one of my first ideas, and I was so glad when we went past issue 4 and I got a chance to do it.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Here?
That's my cat.
So
Is that
a baby or a cat?
That is
yeah,
a- that is a
yeah, it could be
I was like, I'm pretty sure my baby's gone, but maybe I'm wrong.
So after everyone who so far Elvira has met, you know, Mary Shelley, Vlad the Impaler, now Vincent Price, is there anyone else that you guys would like to see Elvira meet? Maybe say like the Addams Family or the Munsters or anything like that?
Yeah, that unfortunately gets into licensing issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an idea that I had an idea a couple of years ago, and it came back to me again, and it would require the cooperation of another giant multinational corporation. So it may never happen. But when I saw Francesco Francavilla's covers for Shape of Elvira, which are beautiful and haunting, I thought, Elvira meets Swamp Thing. Why can't we do Elvira meets Swamp Thing aside from DC Comics? So I will try and ram that through at some point in my life.
That's great.
There are a lot of, I mean, I think for all of who he really was and what a monster he was in person, Elvira could meet H.P. Lovecraft at some point. I didn't put that in the first time thing because I just didn't want to do a whole issue about what a jackass he was. But I might get back to Elvira. The Hollywood issue was originally going to be H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay.
Number 4, and I just went, that ends us on such an unpleasant note. You know, like it's much more fun to have her running around in the 1930s with Karloff and Lugosi and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, Elvira. So the thing is, Elvira meets Vincent Price kind of got me thinking. The first issue, right? The first issue came out last week. For anyone that didn't know, make sure you go to the comic book store and pick it up. But there's an opening scene that got me thinking, right? So are these comics, all these story arcs, are these really just intended to be material that you can point to, like go to streaming services and studio heads and be like, look, we could tell some really kick-ass stories with Elvira. And quite frankly, the point you make, you know, not to spoil it for people that are going to get the book, but Elvira could very much be as relevant today, if not more so than ever, as the guide to classic horror, you know, for all the newbies and millennials and whatever the next generation beyond that is coming in. Is that what this really is?
Studio here in Hollywood, believe me. And you try to get that gig, because we'll come straight to you.
I mean, I'll say this. I come to writing comic books from working in movies, but I always approach comic books entirely as what's going to work in a comic book. And when I finish them, I look at them and go, that make a pretty good little movie, actually. You know, I think the time travel bit in Mistress of the Dark, yeah, we could get a 12 episode streaming series out of that. But that's never how I approach them. I always think of them as comics first. And that first scene in Elvira meets Vincent Price, this comes up every once in a while when I'm writing Elvira. I'll put in something from the real world and go, is Cassandra going to be okay with me making fun of this particular experience? Because at the time I had started writing Elvira Meets Vincent Price, I had read in the trades somewhere that either Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or someone had turned down, or Shudder had turned down an Elvira Mistress of the Dark series. And first I thought, how freaking stupid of them. But second, of course, as the writer, I went, well, I'll work that into the comic.
There you
The
go.
hell with them. I will snatch defeat. I will snatch victory from the jaws of defeat and make a good comic out of that experience.
So we're winding down. Last two questions here before Susie gets to the final one. I just wanted to ask you guys. Well, since we are the horror show, that's what we cover here on the channel, and there's definitely a lot of classic horror elements that are woven throughout the Elvira books, but you don't necessarily touch on a lot of the newer horror stuff, like the found footages and the for lack of a better word, whatever they call it, torture porn and stuff. And I know that's not all stuff that's necessarily up Elvira's alley, but a one shot where she lampoons all of that stuff in her own sort of Cassandra Elvira way, hey, maybe throw a bone to those of us that like all the other kinds of horror and would like to see how Elvira would interact with that kind of thing. Just as a request.
Cassandra, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it is possible you could make fun of that, if you did it the right way. I mean, that's not impossible. Yeah, you're right. I don't get into that kind of stuff, but you could make fun of it. It would be kind of nice to kind of pull it off at the knees, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Just address it, and then we're moving on. Elvira doesn't do this kind of stuff. but yeah.
I mean, that thing that the opening panels of Elvira: The Wrath of Khan are not about a horror movie filmmaker, more about a superhero movie filmmaker. So we do touch on some contemporary stuff every now and again. Look at me, I'm Blofeld. We've got an itch. Itch goes back on the floor. But I mean, I'll be completely honest. I don't like the torture porn movies.
Right.
And it's without the knowledge. I think it's better to write from a position of I get it and I know what it is and I love it and I understand it. For me to make fun of it,
that's what I mean? Not research you want to do.
It's not. I just don't. Yeah. The idea of sitting down and watching Hostel so that I can do this. That's when I could be watching House on
Torture.
Yeah. A little self-flagellation.
When I could watch Theater of Blood and the Omega Man, or I could watch, and I watched the first, I don't know, 3 seasons of The Walking Dead, and there's a little bit of that in the Omega Man, but again, zombies are not. It's just. That's my zombie parody. I choose to parody the zombie movies I like rather than the ones that I am tired of and less interested in. I know we could probably, make a very successful comic doing Elvira Meets The Walking Dead, I think actually one of my working titles I have a page in a notebook somewhere for the Omega Man that's like, the Stalking Dead, like the Stumbling Dead. Yeah.
Hey, I just went with the first Walking Dead, the new season.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it another chance.
There you
go. But yeah, so it really is. It's so much of like what do Cassandra and I love, and what do we care about, and what are we interested in. And so, yeah, it's going to be making, parodies about Vincent Price movies from the early 70s rather than, Eli Roth movies.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, screw you.
Yeah, we're the horror show. We had to at least ask.
And I actually think there's also that thing there's the difference between timeless and of the moment. It's like, it just struck me as like, if we did a Blair Witch joke, that would seem more dated than making fun of Frankenstein from 1933.
It would. That's
Isn't
true.
that funny?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Like
true.
if we did a found footage thing, I think there would also be people who go, that's kind of not over though. Like
Yeah.
nobody's really doing that now.
I actually did a Blair Witch a parody the year it came out,
Sure.
and it went over really bad. I was crawling through a tent with a flashlight, and I had this beanie on that was like really gigantic. You know,
Sure.
had to cover my beehive, and
Sure.
so massive cleavage coming at you in the flashlight. And anyway, it worked the year the movie came out.
Exactly.
I agree with you. It does. It would be, yeah, it's weird how things that are more contemporary, making fun
Yeah.
of
Well, they call
things
those
like,
things.
hey,
Those are timeless for a reason, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Oh no, she's starting to freeze up. There you go. Yeah, you're back. Well, we're just. I think Susie's just got one last question for you guys, and then we can let you go on your way.
Okay, is there anything that you'd like your viewers to know about the project or anything? Or you have any, or both of you have any other projects coming up on the horizon?
Well, I'm going to take that to just plug my book here for one.
Yes, yes.
1 second. The comic books amazing, but I've got my new Elvira, yours truly, Elvira, autobiography of my entire life, coming up. It's on pre-sale now on BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon and everywhere else. And I wrote it myself, and it's about my whole bizarre life, which is, believe it or not, much more bizarre before I became Elvira. So
I cannot wait to read that.
David knows about that. So,
I know that to be true. We had a long conversation about that recently at the
yep.
Dresden.
Are you going to be doing the audiobook for it? I hope.
I just did that. Just recorded it. Just finished it last week. That was
Fantastic.
hard.
Yay.
Yeah, that people don't realize how much effort it takes actually just reading an
read.
entire book out loud.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It took 5 days, 10 to 4 every day, and it's just grueling and slow, and also very, very emotional. You get to parts that you talk about, and I just fell apart a couple of times and had to take like a half an hour where I went in the bathroom and sobbed, just like about the AIDS crisis, for example, and
Sure.
friends I lost, and so it was it was heavy, but I'm very proud of the book, and I hope you still like me after you read it.
I'm sure we will, if not more so. And
absolutely.
yeah, I ask about the audiobook because I always prefer to experience a book through their own voice if I possibly can.
And
so.
we'll listen to it with much more appreciation now.
Exactly.
Oh,
David, how about for you?
Well, we got 3 to infinite more issues of Elvira meets Vincent Price coming. Second issue will be out in, I think, the first week in September. And stick with that. You're going to have a great time with it. Trying to think, what's the second issue called again? I never remember. Oh, Angst for the Memories. Angst for the Memories. It was originally
Angst for the
Memories.
Memories.
memories, yeah.
That was one of Cassandra's. She's like, dude, come on, Memories in one of my comic books, Memories. Issue 3 is Untitled. I like coming up with joke titles for projects, as you've heard, and the joke title for this whole thing was Raiders of the Lost Schlock, and that's actually the title of the 3rd issue.
How about Raiders of the Lost Snark?
There we go.
Dang.
That's
there
even
you
a better
go.
rhyme.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good
Nice.
one. But yeah,
I
so
think we
we
still
got
change that, right? 3rd issue's not out yet. We got
We've
time.
got when you put this up, you'll have 48 hours left to back The Wrath of Khan. Do it. I should say that a lot of our first Kickstarter is not really available anywhere. Cassandra believes in keeping the Kickstarter things pretty exclusive, so back it on Kickstarter if you want to read it. I don't know when you're necessarily going to get a chance again.
Yeah.
And after that, we have another project in the works, which is vaguely connected to the memoir. I'll just leave it at that.
Nice.
And I just handed in half the script of that, and Cassandra had nice things to say about it. So
was it a visual storytelling of the autobiography?
it is an extremely unofficial story.
Nice.
Of, the life and times of Elvira.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
But that should be great fun, and I don't know when we're going to launch that, but I'm guessing before the end of the year, while it's still the 40th anniversary. And yeah, I got some other things in the work, but nothing I can really talk about. I have 2 podcasts, Pulp Today and The Writer's Block. Check those out if you will.
Nice. There you go. Can do. Well, thank you guys, both of you,
Yes,
so
thank
much
you.
for taking the time to come on the channel and talk about all this stuff with us. It was a lot of fun, and we definitely greatly appreciate it. So, until next time, you guys, I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Cece Von Slaughter.
That was David Avallone, and of course, none other than Cassandra Peterson. And until next time, remember, stay scared.